Hi, this is Karen McNall, and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up. And today I'm going to show you how to create a card. We're going to change this card up slightly into a sympathy card. We're going to make it a little bit softer using the trio punch and rounding the corners, and also putting the watercolor splash on the part of the Very Vanilla. So the stamp sets we'll be using today are Love What You Do, and we're also going to be using the Sentiment from Painted Glass with Deepest Sympathy. So for the supplies we'll be using, we will be using a piece of Very Vanilla panel, and this is cut 2.5 by 3.5. And we have a piece of mint macaron, which is 2 5/8 by 3 5/8. And those will just go on top of each other. And then we have the Share What You Love Designer Series paper, and we'll be using the flower print today. And this is cut 4 by 5 1/4. And our card base is Very Vanilla, and this is cut 8.5 by 5.5 and scored at 4 1/4. And we also have a Very Vanilla envelope. So let's get started creating the card. First thing we're going to do is we'll go over the ink colors, and I chose 4 to use today. And we are using Mint Macaron, Rich Raspberry, Call Me Clover, and Grapefruit Grove. So the first thing we want to do is create that watercolor splash, and to do that we're going to be using Mint Macaron. And so we'll just get our stamp pad all set, ready to go. We do need to bring in our piercing mat, and because we're using a photopolymer stamp set, and the watercolor splash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp my panel inside of my card base and my envelope in kind of like a 3-step process. So we're just going to ink up the watercolor splash, and we're going to stamp off, and then we're going to stamp on to create a lighter shade. So that's our panel. Our next step is to create the same image but on the inside of the panel. I'd like to take the theme of my card to the front side, the inside of the card, and also to the envelope. So again, we'll just stamp that off, and I'm just going to put this down on the lower corner here. So that one is all set. And finally, our envelope, again, we'll just ink this up with Mint Macaron, stamp off, and then we'll stamp right in the lower left corner. All right, so we'll start. Our next step will be creating the detailed flower piece. So we will bring in Call Me Clover. You could use Tranquil Tide too, that would also match, but I'm gonna jazz it up and use Call Me Clover. And we're just gonna stamp this right down here in the lower corner. And again, we're gonna take our card base and do the same thing. And also our panel here. Now with the tricky part with this one is I want to have this up here because I want to leave room for my sentiment down here. And we just want to, because we're going to be trimming off some of the corners as well. So I just want to get this to the kind of like the top part of the card. All right, so that one's all set. We're done with the Call Me Clover. And now we're going to bring in our Rich Raspberry. And these old stamp pads, I want to open like the new ones now. So I'm so used to the new ones. So we're going to just stamp the Rich Raspberry first, because I'm going to change up the color as well. So I don't like the darkness of the Rich Raspberry, so I'm going to stamp off. And then I'm going to stamp a lighter shade there. And then again, I'm going to do another lighter shade down here. This one we're going to leave because we're going to stamp that in Grapefruit Grove. So we'll just take in our envelope, and again I'm going to match up what I did on the other panel, and just stamping off and stamping on. And then finally our inside of our card, again ink up with Rich Raspberry, stamp off and stamp on, ink up, stamp off, stamp on. Okay, so now we're going to make a quick clean of using our chamois here. I just love this chamois. It's so quick and easy to use, and it works really well. So now we're going to move this one out of sight because I don't want to contaminate my colors. And so we're going to be using the Grapefruit Grove. All right, so now we're just going to ink this one up, and I'm going to do this one. Let's see. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to try full strength. Let's see what we got. Yeah, the full strength is good because you're covering up that macaron, so you do need it full strength. So again, we're just going to do the same thing for the panel, the front, and also our envelope. Okay, so that is all done. The next thing we want to do is stamp the sentiment. So that is a clear mount stamp, so we don't need the piercing mat. And we are going to ink this up with Call Me Clover. So hopefully I can get this straight for you. And I'm just going to stamp this in the lower right corner down here. And that looks great. I just love this font. I just love this font. It's just really great. And all the fonts actually in the painted glass stamp set is really nice and will work with this card. All right, so now what we want to do is soften this up. So I'm just going to actually get rid of some of these ink pads out of the way. So we are going to bring in the detailed trio punch. So what I want to do here is I want to soften up the corners, this one and this one. So you can do it a number of ways. You could use the corner rounder here, or you could use the detailed little image here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the corner rounder, and I'm just going to round this corner on this side, and I'm also going to round the corner on the opposite side. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try to use this here for up here in this corner, and you can't do it down here just because the Sympathy is too far over. But if you did center your stamp set to here, then it would work. So now what we want to do is we want to take our macaron panel. Again, that's 2 5/8 by 3 5/8. And we want to mirror this effect here just with the rounded corners. So we'll bring this in and we're going to just punch that corner. Oops, I didn't get it all the way. Find this one you really have to, oh, that one just didn't work. Let me start over here. You really got to push down. It takes some getting used to with this punch. There we go. Just going to be patient with it and use both hands. All right, so now let's take this panel and take a look at it. So I kind of like how this shows through with the mint macaron. So we're going to go with that. So let's just clean up our area here. And now we're just going to assemble the card. All right, so we'll take our adhesive and we're just going to run it on the back side here. And you just want to get a little bit up in that corner there so the corner will stick. So we're just going to match this up. It should be about 1/8 of an inch border, so it's a little hard to do. Just got to be patient with it. So to make sure my borders are all good. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And we'll put some dimensionals on the back side of this piece, and we'll need about 5. So we'll just put them in all 4 corners. And I'll just put a little one in the middle. And we'll just press those down really well. All right, so now we'll bring in our card base here. And we are going to bring in the Share What You Love Designer Series paper, and we're just going to layer this on the front of the card base. And this has a 1/4 inch border. And you got to make sure that you have your pattern going the correct way, because there is a right and wrong way to this. You want to make sure your flowers are going the correct way, not upside down. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to just add this panel here. We'll release the backings of the dimensionals. And we're going to add it to our card. So I don't want to cover up these really beautiful flowers here, so I'm just going to put it over up top here. And we'll just secure it down there. So now what I'm going to do is bring in some linen thread, and I created a bow here. And we're just going to add this right to this lower piece here. So to do that, I need my piercing tool and I need a glue dot. So we'll take our piercing tool and we'll just roll a glue dot onto the end of that piercing tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on here, press onto the knot area, and then just release that piercing tool. So that will stick really nicely. Now if you find that sticky, you can take your embossing buddy and just dab it with the embossing buddy, and that'll help with the stickiness of that glue dot. So now what I'm just doing is I'm just taking my ribbon scissors and I'm trimming up the tails of the linen thread. So one last step is you're going to take in the Share What You Love pearls, and I'm just going to add, let's see, we'll add the Tranquil Tide to the Rich Razzleberries here. Just adds a little bit of bling. And then for this one, I'm just going to take one of the, I think this is very vanilla. I'm not quite sure, but I think it is. And we'll just add it to there. So that's your card for today. So I kind of like how that detailed flower looks over in the corner, and these rounded up make it a little bit softer. So this is the card we created today, and the one I created earlier. And I'll show you another one that I created without the watercolor splash, Sympathy. This is really plain and simple, and it just uses the rounded corners. So I kind of like it both ways with the little detail there and the rounded corners, but all three cards work. So hopefully I hope you enjoyed my card that I made today. And for all your Stampin' Up! Needs, please visit my website at inspiredbygraham.com. Thanks for watching.